Hi there YouTube. So as you probably have already guessed if you've been watching my channel since I first started, I'm a little bit of a fan of the Nanoblock style toys. And you can look at my review. I did a review of 4 of the rip-off or fake Nanoblock Transformer figures. Now in front of me I've actually got 2 different sorts of Nanoblocks. I've got 3 Nanoblock license sets, these ones here, and the 2 at the back are actually a German competitor to the Japanese Nanoblock brand, Brixies, who did the 2 Singapore sets at the back there, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So what I want to do in this review is put the 2 world-leading, micro building block brands head to head and see which one has better builds, more fun, and cooler pieces. So, what are you waiting for? In this mega Nanoblocks versus Brixies review, let's do it. So the first thing I want to do in this review is talk about the boxes, because there are actually some significant difference. So first I thought I'd show you a comparison between the built model and the boxes. So you can see that is one of the smallest, these are the smallest box sizes that Nanoblocks does. They have a couple of standard sizes. This is the smallest box size they do. You can see that's just the size of the set above it. This is one of the larger Master or more Challenger series, I think it's called, boxes, and you can see that's the size of the model on top of it. Brixies doesn't seem to have a particular pattern in boxing sizes because they have 2 different types of packaging, which I'll talk about in a second. But as you can see for, box bloat, Brixies really doesn't, have any at all. You can see just how big the model is and just how many pieces came out of that, right? This is a 900 pieces in this box. This one is 800 pieces. So you can see that this box is more than double the size of that one for less pieces. So if you want a set, which one has the more box bloat, Nanoblocks has infinitely more box bloat than the Brixies range does. But that doesn't necessarily indicate a poor or good quality product. It's just something that they do. And I'll explain why Brixies actually has such small packaging just in 1 second. So let's take a look first at the Brixies packaging. Now the quick disclaimer right now is I've never seen Brixies in Australia before. I only ever saw them when I was in Singapore, and I was actually really impressed because Toys R Us over there had a section for Lego, a whole wall of Nanoblocks and a whole wall of Brixies. So that was really cool. But Brixies actually does 2 sorts of boxes. These are their standard retail boxes, and you can see they're very much designed to reduce costs. So that's why they're so small, and they're also the same. So this box is the same for all the sets, and simply they put an insert of the set inside, and then they put a sticky here which shows you the name of the set. So that's why Brixies boxes are so small, is because it allows them to save money on box design. Also, Brixies has 2 sets designed, so even though I bought these both at Toys R Us, this is apparently what they call their airport design box. And again, right, all their boxes are exactly the same. They have that same kind of black and green styling. This one again has a clear window, and you get this little piece of cardboard which props up against the window so you can see the set inside. So definitely a very, very different design to the way Nanoblocks does it, and that's probably because it's cheaper that way. Nanoblock, on the other hand, has totally unique boxes for all their sets. You can see they really go into showing you the product, details about the product, where it comes from, difficulty level. You've got multiple different angles and shots of the product. Depending on which series it comes from, you get this little thing here. You get this little bit here. You've got it in both languages too, because it's, you've got the Japanese, because it's Japanese, and English, a lot of legal blah blah here. So you get a very, very different box experience. I think these ones present more excitingly, but and these ones look a little bit more knockoff-ish just because of the way the box is very, the same for all of them. So that's one way you can be able to tell the difference. One thing to note. Again, in the end, does it really affect the set? No, but I just thought it would be interesting to compare these 2 leading microbrick systems. So, the next thing I want to look at then is the instructions. Alright, so first to look at these instructions. Now, neither of them are the kind of stuff that you're talking about from Lego, particularly because they have a different building style. Lego uses a lot of modular sections, whereas this being something which is very flat, very much building every layer at a time, has different kind of instructions. So most of them are kind of these bird's eye view instructions. The biggest problem I have with them is, first of all, having a parts count always helps for each step, but what I find most frustrating is that everything goes to blue as soon as you've built on it. So it's very, very hard to match up the colors underneath with the colors on top. So I think that's something that they really need to address, is making, sure you fade the colors, but making them all the same color means it's very, very confusing to try and work out where all the different parts go. You get an interesting little 3D bit here, but again, it's still a bit confusing where things are situated because you don't have the individual colours. But apart from that, you can see that's kind of instructions that these get. For a larger set, it's the same kind of deal. On camera, it's a little bit hard to show because it's so massive. You can see it comes as a big spreadsheet. No booklets here, they're all spreadsheets. You can see you get a combination of side-on building, as you can see there, and then bird's eye view building. Still a good job again, but really, really difficult to do when all of that stuff there has been done in that blue colour. Comparatively though, the Brixies ones, here you go, that's the instructions here. They're a little booklet that folds out in the same way, and they're very... I was not a fan of these instructions. They're so tiny, like it's incredibly small to try and work out which one you're looking at. And then it's also just like a bit of a mess because you're doing massive amounts in one step. For example, this, right? All in one step. So I wasn't a big fan of these ones. I found them very, very confusing and not particularly helpful either, just because of their size. Was not a big fan of these ones. They need to be bigger. This just wasn't good enough in my books. Also, while we're here, we can talk about spare pieces. So with the Neuschwanstein, it's actually a bit of a thing. All Nanoblocks have spare pieces. The Neuschwanstein Castle, which is this one here, which was only a, let me see, it doesn't say how many pieces are in it. That's right, only a small set, only a $23 set in Australia. This is how many spare pieces it comes with. The train comes with this many spare pieces. The two Brixies set combined came with this many spare pieces, which isn't a whole lot. So if you're looking to rebuild these and make your own stuff, the Nanoblocks ones give you way better value because they give you heaps and heaps and heaps of spare parts to go and do your own thing with, if that's what you want to do with these sets. So considering, I'll talk about price in a minute, but considering the price, the Nanoblock ones are definitely giving you more bricks. Particularly when a lot of the bricks they give you are useful bricks. They're the small kind of bricks which you do lose, whereas I found that the Brixies ones are often, they're quite large bricks which you're not likely to lose, and as such, it's not particularly helpful if you actually do lose something. So these are the three Nanoblock sets. Now the first one I really want to talk about, I think it's actually my favourite, spoiler alert, is the Neuschwanstein Castle. So I'm just going to get a little bit close to that with my camera. You can just see the level of detail they put into these things is phenomenal, right? You've got all that kind of texture in the trees, you've got the windows, you've got the levels. Yeah, very, 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 very nice. I'm just rotating this around so you get an idea. Yeah, this is really, really nice. I think the colours really pop. I think you put a lot of variety in what's going on. This one I'm a really big fan of. It's actually, you know, pretty realistic to the real thing as well, which is good because it is actually modelled after something that is real, so that's always a plus. So to me, this one is definitely really nice. Pretty big fan of this one. Next one I'm going to look at is the plane. Now, I'm not exactly sure which plane it's modelled after. It doesn't say. I imagine it's something like a 737, Boeing 737, or an Airbus A320, that kind of style of plane. This one is less exciting, probably my least favourite of the three, just because there's not a lot going on with this model. As you can kind of see, it's very flat, which I mean is good for a plane, much better than the Brixies version, which has studs on top on the wings. No. Definitely looks very nice, very aerodynamic. You can actually rebuild it so it has wheels, landing gear, but I built the version with the stand because I think it looks cooler. My biggest problem, I think, is the way that the wings and the engines are done. It's very, very flat. As you can see, it's 90-degree angles. The engines hang down way too much. Like, the engine should really come up rather than just hang down that low. So I think that's my biggest problem with it. I think from the side and stuff it looks alright, but I think because of the way it's done, it looks very static. It doesn't look like it's moving, so it's one reason I don't like it as like the way it looks. But in terms of the way it's built, it's very, very nice. A lot of smooth edges. They did a really good job, and I think it's very, very cool how you did all this on the side, and the wings and everything are also sideways building. So overall, good build design. Just doesn't look that great on display, I don't think. And then we come to one which I've been trying to track down for literally years, and I finally found it, and that's the steam locomotive. Now, it's a bit hard to capture in a camera because, again, it's all black. But in saying that, I think they've done an awesome job of doing it. You've got stuff like the seeing all the details. You've got this grass coming along here, so it's a little bit different. You can see this is a very, very good steam locomotive. It is based on the real thing. I've forgotten what it's called off the top of my head. It's a D Class 51 or something, I think. Someone might pull me up on that. Very, very, very nice. Looks definitely like it should. Has all the right stuff, all the train stuff, you know, from the smoke deflectors to the, you know, little thing, the screw to open the smoke box, lights, funnels, whistles, number plates. As again, you can see it's got brick-built wheels. Probably the only thing I'd say is the detraction from this model is the fact that because the wheels are brick-built, they're a little bit hard to see in under there, but that's okay. Also nice, this engine doesn't cheat, except for at the front here with the cylinders. The wheels, or the imitation wheels, are the only thing which touch the ground. Really nice to get an enclosed cab. It's got just a little mass of these little coal, oh, well, they're meant to be coal, simulated coal pieces on the back. They're just single 1x1x1 pieces. So they're loose in there, which is probably problematic, but you don't need to have them if you don't want to have loose parts on your model. But again, it's just very, very, very nice. And I think the one thing I've noticed in these models is that, you know, if you know Nanoblocks, you can see how they've got the little indented pieces. Like some of the pieces are indented. That's just their style, their trademark. And I didn't put any conscious effort into making sure all the indent pieces were lined up or not lined up or whatever. And I don't think it matters. I really don't think it damages the appeal or the displayability of the set if you do or don't pay attention to where those little indented pieces are. So I think this one does look really nice. I think what makes it slightly less exciting is the fact that it's all black. I think it would have probably been better to go for, I mean, obviously it's Japanese, so that makes sense. But to go for possibly a little bit more colourful prototype, and that meant that some of the details, such as, you know, you can see the boiler bands or pipes coming down the sides here, you can't really see them. You can kind of see them now. Just so they pop out a little bit more, because there is a lot of really nice building in there. So this, if you've been to Singapore, or possibly even if you haven't, this is Marina Bay Sands. It's the iconic built hotel / casino / infinity pool, rooftop bar kind of deal. And it's based on the real thing. Unfortunately, although this has the right shapes, it doesn't really capture the look of the place. I really just didn't, like, having been to it myself, to both these places, I'll talk about in a minute, didn't buy it, unfortunately. This part down the bottom, I didn't really understand what was going on. These are very, very plain. The actual thing is obviously covered completely in windows. So you don't get any of that in this. You only get a couple of little windows. It's also the wrong colour. It's white, when the actual building is kind of like a silver glass kind of colour. I mean, I don't know what colour they could have used, but white is definitely not the right colour. So that's kind of disappointing. Also, they're also a little bit, I mean, I said the dimples don't matter, but these things have the piece number printed on the inside, and I think that looks really ugly. I mean, these are meant to be windows, and they just look really gross because you've got all this little writing on there, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So up close, that's not particularly nice. And then this side's very boring. Nothing. Like, there should be windows there, because in reality, these parts are all joined up. These are filled in. This is where the hotel is in these 3 columns, and then the bar and the restaurant and everything are on top. So this is not hollow in the real thing. The fact that this is hollow, again, takes away from its realism, and also just means that it kind of looks a little bit weird. In terms of the top section, they did a decent job of capturing the details. This is meant to be the restaurant out here. This is meant to be the infinity pool. And then again, like, these are the 2 elevator shafts, and there are actually trees up there. But just because of the weird scale, it's kind of odd. The way it kind of turns out looks weird. And then even then, I think that looking from the top, it's not particularly excitingly detailed, and that's partly because of the weird scale that they've picked. But I think it probably would have been better to go with smaller builds. Like, yes, that's small, but like, don't do trees, just do green cylinders like they did for the people down here. And get a little bit more excitement, get a bit more colour into it. That would have been nice. But yeah, I feel like this one is a little bit, it was a bit of a letdown. I'll talk about the actual build in a moment, but isn't quite as realistic as it could be. It does look a bit flat and boring. Then we get to the flyer. Now, the biggest problem with the flyer is I can't get it all in one shot. I can try. Now again, this flyer is not particularly realistic. This part is right, somewhat, but down the bottom is just completely made up, because the reality of the flyer is that it's inside a shopping centre. Like, the base of it is a shopping centre, as a lot of places in Singapore, you know, giant shopping centres. So the whole greenery around the outside with this levelled platform just isn't what it actually looks like. it's actually inside a shopping centre. Now, that wouldn't have looked particularly nice, but it also means that this doesn't really look like the Singapore Flyer then. It just looks like a Ferris wheel that's really, really big. So, yeah, I mean, that's the problem. At least this Marina Bay Sands, you look at it and you go, yes, that's meant to be the Marina Bay Sands Hotel in Singapore. This just kind of looks like a Ferris wheel, unless you've been to Singapore or you've read on the box that it's the Flyer, which it actually doesn't specify it's from Singapore, but it's under the Singapore section of their website. So, yeah, it doesn't look particularly exciting. It does actually spin. Like you can spin it, although as you can see, it's not quite round because of the square bricks, round hole kind of deal. It does have some interesting layering going at the bottom. I think this one visually looks more exciting than Marina Bay Sands. They also did a really cool job of doing those little people on the bottom there. I mean, completely out of scale with the whole thing, but they do look kind of cool. If you just kind of spin it around, you can see it is able to be viewed from both the front and the back. But again, this one has kind of got a back side. Like, you've got all this detailing on the back, which is nice. But the back kind of looks quite open because you've got the bottom of these bricks. And it doesn't look particularly good. So even though it's meant to be able to be viewed from both the front and the back, I don't really think that it can be. I think this is really meant to be the front. So again, yeah, the execution, the idea was good. The execution is just a little bit substandard, and it just doesn't quite get there for me, which seems to be a thing with these two Brixie sets. Okay, so I've got all these sets in one frame. I want to talk about value. So the thing about these sets is they are difficult to build, and they do take a long time, because even if they've got the same amount of pieces as the Lego set, they're very small, very fiddly, and because of the somewhat confusing constructions, you'll probably have to rebuild a couple of sections. So in terms of build times, you're talking about 2 hours it took me to make that one, possibly a little bit longer because there were breaks. This one took me about 4 or 5, possibly 6 to do this one. You're talking about probably 1.5 to do the plane. My brother actually did Marina Bay Sands, but he said it only took me about an hour, hour and a half. And the Flyer took me about 2.5. So you can see straight away something weird going on. The ones that have the most pieces didn't actually take the longest to build. And that's because these sets rely a lot on repeat builds, repetitive builds, and boring builds. These two were not enjoyable to put together whatsoever. This one, as you can see, a lot of the pieces are just building up these columns, which is just putting 24 pieces all together in a row, sticking it together, done, boring. This Ferris wheel was excruciatingly painful to build because you had to do all the repeat little cars, all the repeat support pylons, had to go all the way around the edge. Those edges are little individual pieces, piling up all these pieces, no. That one had a large amount of repeat builds and wasn't particularly exciting. Conversely, right, all these other ones, despite the fact that they're just layers, you know, it's a homogeneous looking build, every step you're doing something different. You're putting in different parts, you're changing out different colors, you're introducing new angles or new pieces or new textures. So you've really got a lot of variety going on in these builds. So these builds, despite the fact that, you know, normally I hate building Lego sets, like I hate it. Building a Lego set is my least favorite part of it. I actually want to just play with it, get it out and display it. These three I actually did quite enjoy the build, and I was really satisfied when I finished it and really happy with what it looked like. So I thought there was a lot more fun from these sets, even though they had less pieces in them, in the way that both they built nicer and they also, as I just said in my previous segment, looked nicer as well. In terms of how much their durability, all of these are just going to smash into a million pieces if you drop them. The plane a little bit less because most of the pieces are stuck on better. But yeah, these are not child friendly, these are not drop friendly. If you drop them, you will break them, you will lose pieces. That's just how it is. If you don't want that to happen, you really need to glue these together when you build them because it's just not, they're just too small to get the structural integrity that you want. So now we've kind of talked about value as a set. There's something really, really important which I haven't talked about yet, and that is price. And this is probably the part where you're going to be a little bit shocked. Okay. So I'm just pulling out all my little receipts so we can make sure I get this price right. Alright, so from a retailer in Australia who are normally known for quite expensive prices, you can see that the castle is meant to be $25 and the train is meant to be $55. Just think about that just for a second. I got them on sale, which meant they were awesome value, but not everyone gets that luxury. The plane, bought from just an independent little stationery store, was $40. So you're kind of getting an idea about that. So you get 800 pieces, 500 pieces, about 300 to 400 pieces. Coming now to the Brixies. Now, being aware these are sold in Singapore, which has the only place in the world I've ever seen that has higher toy prices than Australia. But I did look online and confirm this was true. Both of those sets were $44 Singapore dollars, which in Australia works out probably at the moment to about 45, 46 Australian dollars. For that though, you get 900 pieces and you get 500 pieces. So that's when it really comes down to it. These two sets are more expensive than these two, but I said this one actually I think looks the best. This one is nice as a build, but at least it's durable and it looks good for all angles. And they're slightly cheaper than the train, but I said the train was much better value because it was a much more exciting build and looks a lot nicer as a finished product. So when you think about the fact that you're paying a premium for these sets at the back, but you're paying a premium, but you're getting boxes that are not specific to the set and don't have any extra information about the set. You're getting very, very poor instructions. You're getting very, very few spare pieces. You're getting very, very repetitive, boring builds. And you're also getting not particularly exciting parts. There's no special parts in these ones, really, that you don't get in any of the other sets. And you're also not getting very sturdy or like structurally sound buildings out of them. So considering how much you pay for these ones here, you're definitely better off going with Nanoblocks. I think my conclusion to this review, starting from right now, is that Nanoblocks offer far better value, even though they are still expensive. They are expensive building blocks, and there's no two ways about that. Nanoblocks are far more exciting to build, far better instructions, far better pieces both in colours and in spare pieces, and have far better looking builds from all angles than Brixies. So then it really comes down to which ones would you buy. Well, I mean, look, there aren't any equivalents from Nanoblocks of these. There's only the Brixies versions, hence why I bought them. But for a lot of Brixies smaller sets, for example, their animal sets or their musical instrument sets or whatever, or their Features of the World set, there's often an equivalent or something similar in the Nanoblock line. I will go for Nanoblock one every time. Moreover, Nanoblock is the only one of these two that's somewhat available in Australia, so that's something to keep in mind as well. But yeah, that's my overall review from this one. I think that on just about every count, Nanoblock comes out ahead because it gives you better value, more fun, and better looking models at the end of the day. And in these kind of sets, which are display sets, they're designed to be put on display, not played with, just to look nice. They need to look good to justify the price that they're charging for them. Nanoblocks looks good, Brixies just don't cut it. But hey, that's just my opinion. I could have it totally wrong and lived in some warped planet that none of you guys live on. So, I want to hear your guys. I want to hear my viewers' opinions. Do you even like these small style bricks? I know, for example, Leo Video doesn't enjoy these style bricks. That's totally fine. If you do you have some sets? Do you think they're expensive or cheap? Which one is your favourite? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I have a bias towards the train because I like trains. Let me know what your favourite is. Let me know your thoughts, because that's why I make these videos, to get other people talking so you guys can make better purchasing decisions, hopefully. Alright, cool. That's what we've got time for, so thanks for watching. Do all those cool things you do on YouTube, like and subscribe, and share with your friends, because there's nothing cooler than sharing locations around the world that you've never been to in tiny brick form, and some 19-year-old guy telling you about them. You can definitely tell I'm the life of the party if I got invited to parties. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. As always, that's all we've got time for. This is XtremeTrainz. Okay, you're wondering why I'm still here. I just want to take a quick comment about the Toys R Us in Singapore that I did visit. Despite Singapore having incredibly high toy prices, like more expensive than Australia, which I've never seen before, the range in that store, which was actually an express store, so it was meant to be a small one, was incredible. They had so much stock on the shelves. They had Lego sets from 2-3 years ago still there. They had massive amounts of Transformers. They had Nanoblocks. They had Brixies. They had Barbie. They had Thomas and Friends. They had everything. And that's something I thought was amazing. What was even, even more mind-blowing was there was so much stuff in that store that it was literally filling up the aisles. Like, there were some sections of the store which I couldn't get to because, or like, to get to, I had to climb over boxes of toys. That was how intense it was. I mean, I did go the week before Christmas, so probably would be extra busy then. But that was how intense the shelves were and how full the store was with stuff. That's the opposite of what you see in most Australian retails these days, unfortunately. You see a lot of empty shelves in the toy section. You see a lot of the same stuff rather than like, not much variety. You see a lot of the same toy just put up on 10 different racks. Yeah. So it was pretty mind-blowing for me to see just that much stock on the shelves. What I also thought was pretty, weird was this. I mean, look at the receipt. Look at all the stuff you can't get a refund or exchange on. Like, Transformers, Star Wars, Hot Wheels. Like, I get maybe the blind bag stuff, because you might take it home and feel it. But seriously, not being able to return Transformers, what is that? Yeah, very, very interesting. Yeah, that's what I want to say about that. But yeah, toy stores in Singapore definitely do it right, apart from in the price department. Australian toy stores, take note and get your act together. Alright, second goodbye. Thanks for watching. This is XtremeTrainz.